This is a good analogy. Hold on. Basically, 45 is asking people, like the Americans, basically, to let him keep his job. And of course, even though he's doing a shitty job, he doesn't deserve a second term. He never has. His critics are questioning how much of that job he's actually doing. The questions have gotten louder in recent days following revelations that 45 didn't read at least two written intelligence briefings about Russia paying bounties to the Taliban for the deaths of Americans in Afghanistan. He also appeared to either downplay or miss repeated warnings about the coronavirus that were included in the intelligence briefings, and he's been reluctant to amplify some of his own government's recommendations for reducing the transmission, which includes wearing masks. Michael Hayden, a former director of the CIA and the National Security Agency, said that 45 isn't taking this job seriously and he's not doing a good job, which he never did. Such assessments put 45 in a precarious position, which that's closing in on election day, which is 4 months away, and they risk undercutting the central argument most incumbents make to voters when seeking re-election: keep me on the job because I proved I can do it. Technically, 45 has not proved to me that he can do this job. Instead, 45's uneven handling of the crisis battering the nation, and the new revelations about his lack of attention to intelligence have given Democrats an opening to argue to voters that the squatter has proved that he's ill-equipped to lead the nation through tough times, or he's basically been outright absent at moments that demand leadership. It seems like our wartime squatter surrendered, waved the white flag, and left the battlefield to Joe Biden, who was 45's Democratic opponent in the presidential race. Biden, who spent more than 3 decades as a senator and 8 years as a vice president, pitches himself to voters as a steady and experienced hand. 45 came to power without any experience in governing, making the case to voters basically he made to voters the go with your gut decisions that helped him in business, and technically 45 is a failed businessman. The guy filed bankruptcy 6 times. And as a reality television star would serve him as a squatter, technically that failed. For some Americans disillusioned with the career politicians of both parties, his outsider credentials were part of that appeal. 45 has indeed taken an unconventional approach to the squadrency. He's known to demand only the sparest detail in his briefings, and his workdays frequently include hours watching cable news and posting on Twitter and golfing. White House aides have at times been leery of delivering bad news to him for fear of sparking an angry reaction. According to current and former advisors, they said there's a particular concern in the West Wing about discussing Russia because the subject can send 45 into a tirade about accusations that he has been too cozy with Vladimir Putin, and about the special counsel investigation into the Russian interference in the 2016 election, which led up to 45's impeachment, among a couple other things. The current and former advisors insisted on anonymity to discuss their private dealings with the squatter. 45 tweets for any occasion and obsession with dominating the news cycle, even if it involves something that's negative and false. It has sustained him for much of his squadrency when many of the crises that we're facing, and basically they were of his own making or fleeting in nature. The repugs often bristled at his tone and tweets, but justify their support for him by pointing to the strong economy, which it's not strong anyway, and the new generation of the conservative judges he nominated to the courts, and not one of these fucking judges are fucking qualified. But 2020 has been a year that's demanded more substance than psycho from the squatter. Due to 45's shitty response on the coronavirus, it's led up to 128,000 plus dead, and known infection, and more and more infections are rising in states. The strong economy that 45 claimed as his own, which actually started under Obama, has cratered basically because of his shitty trade deals and among a few other things. And the deaths of several black Americans has sparked a national reckoning over race and police brutality. On each of these matters, 45's critics and some of his allies have argued that he's fallen short rather than rising to the moment. He's all but declared the pandemic over and has focused aggressively on reopening the economy, even as some repug allies in key states start rolling back those efforts in a bid to contain outbreaks. Just 37% of Americans say that they approve of 45's handling of the pandemic, which was down from 44% in March, according to a recent poll from the Associated Press NORC Center for Public Affairs Research. The squatter has also been largely absent from the discussion of systemic racism in America following the death of George Floyd, a black man who died when a white police officer pressed his knee onto George Floyd's neck for 7 minutes, if not longer. 45 has focused much more of his energy on the subject of racism and on defending the prominent placement of memorials to Confederate figures. Democrats also say the revelations over the past few weeks that the squatter may not have read or absorbed intelligence briefings have put a finer point on the questions they're raising about his incompetency. The White House insisted 45 was unaware of assessments that Russia had put a bounty on U.S. service members in Afghanistan. I think that's bullshit. I think he knew. Though intelligence officials told the Associated Press that the matter was included in at least 2 written briefings over the past year, and that senior advisors alerted the squatter to the intelligence. At best, our squatter-in-chief is utterly derelict in his duties, presiding over a dangerously dysfunctional national security process that is putting our country and those who wear its uniform at great risk to us, said Susan Rice, who was at the time President Barack Obama's national security advisor and is under consideration to be Biden's running mate. Wrote in a New York Times opinion piece. Some repugs have defended 45, including Texas Senator John Cornyn, who told reporters that the squatter can't single-handedly remember everything. I'm sure that he's briefed on. And White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnema stated the squatter does read. Technically, 45 does not read. He doesn't know how. He's never read a fucking book a day in his life. She claimed that the squatter is the most informed person on planet Earth, and this is where she gets roasted, because 45, on the other hand, if we actually think about it, 45 is the most misinformed person. He's not the most informed. He's misinformed. He's always been misinformed. To Democrats, what's transparent, or what's transpired in the White House, was foreshadowed during the 2016 election when Hillary Clinton argued that 45 simply wasn't prepared for the presidency. Yeah, the only thing that got him in was that fucking joke of electoral college that shouldn't even fucking exist anyway. Voters still chose him. Technically, it wasn't voters that chose him. He basically lost the popular vote. More people voted for Hillary. I don't care for Hillary anyway. I think she's a dumb cunt. But Hillary Clinton had more experience in running the presidency than 45 did. Technically, she did win the vote. She only lost out because because 45 won the joke of electoral college, even though Hillary had more votes. So technically, Hillary should have been the winner. But and who knows if she would have done a good job or not. But she had more experience, like I said, in running the presidency, in running politics than 45 did. Now Democrats believe their case about competency is more compelling, given that 45 has a record in office to try to defend. His actions and inactions directly impact people's lives every day, said Josh Sherwin, who's a spokesperson for the Democratic Super PAC Priorities USA. Yep,